Here is our context menu handler class. In the last video we implemented these things here, these four, the IUnknown methods. So now what I want to do is sort of implement these enough so that we can build this program. And so what I mean by that is just create definitions there just by right-clicking. So there we go. Last one. Okay. That got a little messy, but we're done. Okay, so before we build, I want to go back here. We put a message box here that I want to erase because we don't need it anymore. And now I want to put a new message box somewhere. Okay, but first let me describe what's happening a little bit. So first, Explorer called this DllGetClassObject, through which it got a class factory, an instance of our class factory class, and Explorer called this class factory class's CreateInstance method, and this method returned, returned in quotes, an instance of our context menu handler class and to Explorer. And what Explorer is going to do with this next is it's going to call this method here, initialize. So to prove to ourselves that everything is working, we're going to go to that method. Here it is. And we're just going to put a little message box. So null something, and then initialize. Okay. I need to put an L in front of that. Now let's build. Good. So now let's test if this works. All right. So we should see our message box. There it is. Good. What I feel like doing right now for fun is explaining this part here of these methods that we've been making that return instances of classes. So for example, for this method DllGetClassObject, we know our objective is to return an instance of our class factory class to Explorer. So why don't we just do this? After we create this pointer to an instance of our class factory, why don't we just assign this pointer to the return object here. Let me copy that. There we go. And then just end the method. Okay, let me comment this out quickly. That'll work, right? Well, let's see. Okay, let's build. Then if we get our message box, then everything's good. So here it is. So yes, it did work. Oh, let me close this. So why do we bother with all of this? And the reason is because Microsoft wants us to. And why do they want us to do that? Basically, what they want is for each class, such as this YouTube class factory class, to speak for itself, to answer whether or not it actually implements the interfaces that Explorer is looking for. So when Explorer calls this method, it's looking for the following interface. Well, if you actually print out this RIID, it'll be the interface for, let me scroll up here. It'll be this interface. So the first thing that Explorer is going to be looking for is an implementation of this interface here. Knowing that we, the programmer, create a YouTube class factory class that implements that interface, and then inside this method here, we create an instance of that class and send it back. And in this situation, the guarantee that this class here actually implements the interface that Explorer is looking for comes from us, or comes from this method itself, a third party. In other words, we have this third party speaking for this class, saying that it in fact does implement the interface that Explorer is looking for. And that makes Microsoft unhappy. What they want is for us to pass this RIID to the instance of the class that we just created, the RIID that comes from here, and then have this class answer for itself whether or not it implements the interface that Microsoft is looking for. So that is why we pass it the RIID and then the return object here. And that's the only reason why we go through all this trouble. But as I've shown here, it's not necessary at all. The same thing is happening inside our class factory in this CreateInstance method. Its purpose is to take its purpose is to return an instance of our context menu handler class here. And it works the same way. We create an instance of that class, and then instead of just returning it, instead of just assigning it to this return object here, we go through the trouble of letting it answer for itself by calling this method here, whether or not it actually implements the interface that Explorer or Windows is looking for. In this case, that interface is going to be probably one of these two.